Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 176. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Chris Dayley, a digital market entrepreneur,
a speaker,
and a neuro marketer who gets excited about helping business learn what their users want on their website using psychology based on testing and analytics. He started his conversion optimization agency, Dayley, in 2014, which he later merged with Disruptive Advertising, where he currently works as a VP of the site testing and optimization. Hello, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
I know the clan, he is anxious to hear your story. So let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own online business?
Yeah, so I'm not your typical entrepreneur in the sense that I didn't always imagine myself running a business. So my start into my career actually was doing sales jobs. I had a bunch of random sales jobs here and there. I was just trying to make money to get pay my way through school. And I ended up selling for a digital marketing agency. And so I started to learn about search engine optimization, which is all about getting your website ranked on Google. And it was just really fascinating to me. You know, I use Google every single day of my life, and I had no idea that there was an entire industry that was behind all the stuff that I saw on Google. And so I ended up applying for a job internally and switched out of sales into search engine optimization. So that's how I discovered digital marketing. So I spent a couple of years doing search engine optimization in-house for a bunch of different companies. And I ended up working in-house for a company where we were seeing a ton of success from search engine optimization. I remember I sat down for like an annual performance review with my boss and one of the executives, and I was showing how we had tripled the traffic to our website in the last 6 months, and which was a big deal to me. But then they asked me the question. They said, "Okay, well that's great. Sounds like a lot of traffic. What happened with all that traffic? Like, did that generate a bunch of business for us?" And I had no idea. I didn't know because I was just focused on getting people to the site. I didn't even bother worrying about what was happening to them once they were on the site. And so as I started digging into analytics and asking around, I realized that a lot of the traffic we were getting was not converting. And so that kind of sparked an obvious question. Why are they not converting? Are we driving the wrong people to the website? Does our website suck? Like, I didn't know how to figure out the answers to these questions. And so I went to Google, of course, and searched for what to do if you get a lot of traffic that's not converting. And I discovered A/B testing, conversion rate optimization. So I jumped in. I started to learn about conversion rate optimization, which is all about figuring out what do people want to see when they're on the website, and running A/B tests to try a couple of different website designs against each other and see what people respond best to. And so I spent several years doing conversion rate optimization, again, working in-house at a lot of different companies. And I ultimately ended up at a company that was owned by a large investment group that owned a portfolio of a dozen or so companies. And the investment group asked me to do some trainings. They said, "Hey, could you come train some of our other companies how to do what you do?" And so I started doing these trainings for other businesses, and often I would hear businesses come to me after the training and say, "Hey, this was really interesting. I love this. I think we need to do this. But we don't have anyone here that can do it. Could you just do it for us?" And so that's what started to kind of spark my interest into like, people would be willing to come and pay me to do this for them. I bet, maybe there's some interest there. So that's kind of what led up to me starting to ask some of the questions about like, maybe I should think about starting a business.
Wow. What a background. What a journey, Chris. Okay. What is the most dangerous belief an online entrepreneur can have?
That's a great question. There's a few very dangerous beliefs. And I'm having a hard time giving one response. I'll share a couple of dangerous beliefs that I have had that really, I think, hindered my own growth. So one dangerous belief is that that a good reason to start a business is to be your own boss. Like to be your own boss or to make a ton of money. Like if either of those things are your goal, you will end up miserable at some point in your career. And the reason why is because if your goal is to become your own boss, that's going to get old really quick. I mean, I definitely liked that idea. When I first started my business, I liked the idea of, I don't answer to anybody. I can work whenever I want. I can wear whatever I want. If I want to sit in my pajamas all day, I can do that. And, and that sounds really enticing and appealing. But at some point, that loses its shine, its sparkle. After 6 months, 12 months of being your own boss and realizing, like, wow, I am really alone. Like I'm alone in this. I am the single person that is responsible for making my business successful. That is a huge weight to carry, and it can be very stressful. And so, if your original motivation for starting your business was to be your own boss, as soon as that no longer is appealing or fun, you can lose your drive to continue growing your business. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs do that, where it's like they get to a certain stage of their business, either they're seeing a lot of success or they've had months and months and months of failure. And it's like, this sucks. I hate this. And similarly with if your motivation is to make a lot of money, the same thing can happen. Either you can get really discouraged because some businesses take a long time for you to start making really good money from. And so if you have some expectation of making a lot of money really fast, if it doesn't happen really quickly, you can get really discouraged and want to give up and quit. And if you're willing to give up and quit really quickly, you're setting yourself up for failure. Or similarly, what happened to me was I launched my business. I had some revenue goals set up for myself. So I had a 6-month and a 12-month revenue goal for myself. And about 2 months into starting my business, I got accepted to speak at a very large conference, a large marketing conference. And speaking at that conference led to me getting several very large clients. And so what happened was, by the 3rd month of starting my business, I had already exceeded my annual revenue goal. And so as soon as that happens, where it's like, wow, okay, well, I'm already making more money than I ever imagined I would running my own business, you can very quickly lose your drive to continue growing and to continue pushing yourself beyond that comfort zone. And so anyways, I think that both of those beliefs are extremely dangerous and can lead to a lot of unmet expectations or a lot of frustration down the road.
Okay, people who are new startups, how can they really become really good on speaking? Do you want to share a little bit of a light on that? Because that is the one which really gave you a push to be in the front of everyone.
Yes. I have 2 tips. The first one is I think the thing that helped me more than anything with becoming good at speaking, whether it was speaking at a conference or even just speaking to other people, I had a lot of fear when I first started my business. I had a lot of fear about interacting with other business owners because I put them up on this pedestal, and I'm like, these are successful guys, and I'm just some schmuck that started a business. I have no idea what I'm doing, and so I made myself feel inadequate a lot. And one of the best things for me to help me break out of this was I joined a local entrepreneurs group here in Utah. So it was like a networking group for entrepreneurs, and we would meet up every week and get together for I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, and we would get into small groups and just discuss like relevant business issues. So it was like, what's something that's going well right now, and what's something you're struggling with right now. And very quickly, I mean, when you're doing this on a weekly basis, or sometimes even a few times a week, you start to get good at talking about what your business is. You start to gain confidence that, oh, okay, well, these other like business owners, these people that I classify as like really successful people, are just normal people. You know, they're normal people just like me, and maybe they have a lot of years under their belt of running a business, but they still have struggles, and they still have, like, I can identify with that. And it starts to help you gain a lot of confidence, and it also helps you to stop putting people up on this pedestal of like, you know, someone I could never speak to. So that's the first tip, is join some kind of a networking group or entrepreneurs association, something like that. Almost every city on the planet has something like this that you can join. And I paid a good amount of money to join this one, but there are some that are free or whatever. Like, you know, just find something where you can go and practice. And the other thing that's been helpful for me, like as I have gotten into speaking at conferences more, honestly, was podcasts. This was actually a recommendation to me I met Mike Stelzner, who owns Social Media Examiner and runs a conference, Social Media Marketing World. And he kind of took me on as to mentor me. And one of his first suggestions was, if you want to be a good speaker, go do podcasts. Go on other people's podcasts, start your own podcast, because what that's going to get you to do is it's going to help you start practicing just talking about a variety of random things. And so just being able to think on your feet and adapt to different situations, those two things in combination with each other, I feel like have helped me to gain a lot of confidence.
Thank you for sharing. But Chris, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons, and I'll actually tell. So here's what happened when I started my business. So initially, and I just gave advice that, like, don't start a business to be your own boss or whatever. I had no idea why I was really starting my business. When I first started, it was kind of just to see if I could. And so, I mean, I did quit my job. I quit my job and I decided, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to actually do it. I'm going to give 100% of my time to this, and I am going to give this 6 months and see if in the first 6 months, if I am liking this and if I'm at least heading in the right direction. But it was mostly just to see, like, well, I don't know, I'll try this out. We'll see what happens. I very quickly, like I said, I started to gain a pretty good traction with my business. And by the end of my first year of running my business, I was still trying to figure out, what do I want this to be? Like, do I want to just have a lifestyle business where I have a few clients for the rest of my life and I make, you know, whatever, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, and that's fine? Do I want it to be that, or do I want to build a company? Do I want to learn how to develop other people? Do I want to make an impact in the world? I mean, it's really some of that, like, searching for your why, like you were just asking me, why do I do what I do? And there's two reasons now why I do what I do. So what led to me merging my business with Disruptive Advertising is I decided I want to build a company. I want to build something where I can help other people gain the type of expertise that I have, because I think that I can have a much bigger impact on this world if it's more than just me trying to do it. And so I wanted to build a company, and I wanted to learn how to build up and develop other people into experts. And the thing that I love about what I do today is, you know, my business, my area of expertise is conversion rate optimization. And what I get to look at every single day is I get to look at I get to look at a variety of different businesses that have websites online, and I get to figure out, what do people want to see online? What is going to drive them to make decisions? And that's something that's just fascinating to me. I love learning about people and why they make the decisions that they do, and how to maybe influence people to make different decisions. And it's not about manipulating people. It's not about trying to trick people into do something that they don't want to do. It's about figuring out what is the need they have and how can I present the solution in a way that resonates with them. And that just is so interesting to me. And I get so excited every day to see results of tests that we ran on websites where it's like, I'm surprised every single day when I will look at test results where it's like, wow, like adding more content to this page increased conversion rates, or vice versa. Wow, removing a bunch of content from a website increased conversion rates. Like, that's interesting. Like, why? What does that tell us about these people, and where can we go from here? So those two things of building up and developing others to, to have some area of expertise, and then really getting to feed my passion for learning why people make decisions they do and how to influence that is very exciting to me. So that's part of why I do what I do.
You quit your job. Were you not worried that this might not work out? How could you just wake up early in the morning and say, you know what, I'm resigning?
No, I was worried about that. I was, in fact, that's why it took me so long to ultimately start my business. So, I'm married, and my wife comes from an entrepreneurial family. So both of her parents, her mom and her dad, had both started businesses. And so she was kind of raised with more of an entrepreneurial mindset. So, all throughout my career, my wife was constantly challenging me. She was saying, you get people asking you to help them with their websites all the time. Why don't you start a business? Why don't you try it? So she was a lot less risk averse than I was. I was raised in more of a traditional home where, I grew up, my dad worked for Intel for 25 years and, had the same job for a long time. And so I was just raised thinking a little bit more traditionally. And I see that a lot. It's hard to break a mindset that you were kind of raised with. Like, it's hard to challenge your own comfort zone. Like, it's very uncomfortable to start a business. And so that's why I say, like, if your reason for starting a business is to be your own boss, like, that is going to stop being fun as soon as running a business becomes really uncomfortable. It's going to be like, man, like, it was so much easier working for somebody else. It's not easy to start a business, and it's not easy to run a business and keep a business going.
But the good thing, thank you for sharing. Now you are letting us know you had a wife who's from the entrepreneurial family who was behind you 100% to go forward. So originally we didn't know that. Thank you for sharing.
And I think that is critical. In fact, one of my business mentors told me this when I was starting my business. His advice was, if your spouse or your significant other is not 100% supportive of you, you will not succeed. And he was absolutely right. If I didn't have my wife's support, like, if she wasn't supportive, then I would have given up many times. I would have given up when my first client canceled, or I would have given up when things started to get hard and I didn't really know what to do. And, having her support and saying, nope, take some time, figure it out. Like, if we don't make as much money,
like for her, she was giving you permission. You're not doing anything wrong. This is how it goes.
Right, exactly. And if it fails, that we're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And so that was, to me, it was important for me to go, you know what? Like, if I start a business and fail, that doesn't mean that I'm a failure. And I think that's a major fear that a lot of people have, is that if I start a business and it doesn't work, that means that I suck and that I'm stupid and that I'm not talented, whatever. And learning to confront and overcome that fear and saying, my business is not me. And I am a human being with all kinds of weaknesses. And you know what? If I start a business and it fails, that means I don't know how to run a business yet. And that's okay. Like, that, it's a learning experience. Why would I know how to run a business? I've never done it before. So I can't be expected to know everything right from the start. And so that kind of helped me to get over some of that fear. And then, like I said, the other advice that helped me to finally quit my job was I was talking to a mentor of mine, and he said, if you're going to do this, if you are going to start a business, you have to quit your job. Because if you don't, you are only ever going to give your business what's left over in the tank after you work at your other job. And you're never going to have enough left over in the tank to really make your business successful. And so you've got to give it everything you have for at least 6 to 12 months. And so that's what I did initially is I said, okay, I am committed to this for at least 6 months. And here are the things that I want to have accomplished by 6 months. And if I get to 6 months and I have not accomplished these goals, I will walk away. And so having that for me was that made it a lot easier to go, okay, I can do 6 months. Like even if it totally sucks, I can do 6 months of anything. And that helped me to like get a little bit of motivation to say, okay, I'll quit my job for that.
That is good. And another thing I want to add in, Clan, if you are out there wanting to start and you start something, it's not working, you have started things that have not worked, you are not the first one, you are not the last one, please continue. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's put man aside. How do you know you are successful?
That's a good question. That's to me, that question, really the question is, where do I get fulfillment out of my job? Because that's really the measure of success. I will say this. One of the most, I probably could have mentioned this in your first question of what's the most dangerous mindset for an entrepreneur. One very, very easy to fall into mentality as an entrepreneur is like the I will be happy when type of mentality, where it's like, okay, I'll know I'm successful when I am making $100,000 a year. Or I'll know I'm successful when I have 100 employees. Or I'll be successful. And the reason why that sucks is it's never good enough, because by the time you hire 100 employees, you probably have this idea in your head that once I have 100 employees, then things will get really easy. And that doesn't happen. It's like you finally get 100 employees and it's like, wow, I actually have more problems now than I did when I was the only employee. How did that happen? Like, I would have thought my life would have been so much easier. Or it's easy to think like once I have $100,000 in the bank, then my life will have gotten to a point where things are easy. And things never, ever, ever get super easy. It is like growth, personal development is hard and it's painful. And personal development and becoming a better entrepreneur, a better business owner, a better professional usually requires a lot of failure. And that failure is painful and it's hard. And so for me, how I know I'm successful, to me, it's a daily choice. And if I can choose to look at each uncomfortable experience in my life and in my business, if I can choose to look at each of those as an opportunity for me to grow and to develop, I feel like I am successful. If I have been able to learn from that uncomfortable conversation with a client, and if I come out of that going, man, now I have some things that I could do a better job of, and I'm going to change. That to me is a measure of success for me. If I'm constantly learning and growing from my failures, instead of having this like I'll be happy when type of mentality.
What made you decide to merge your company with Disruptive Advertising?
Yeah, so there was a few things. I mentioned I was trying to figure out what I wanted to even do with my business. And the first year I didn't really know what to do. And then I finally decided, okay, I want to build a business. And as soon as you start wanting to build a business, then there's all kinds of new problems that you get to, all kinds of new challenges you get to solve. Like, how do I hire people and train people while I'm already running a business? It's like training is like a full-time job in and of itself. And so how am I going to train somebody and continue running a company, which is also a full-time job? And there's a lot of different types of entrepreneurs out there. There's some entrepreneurs that'll start working 80, 90, 100-hour work weeks. And I told myself, I'm not willing to do that. Like I might be willing to do that for 1 or 2 weeks, but I'm not willing to do that for years. Because I care about spending time with my family. I care about having a work-life balance, and I will burn out. Like if I spend a few months in a row doing that, I'm going to burn out and I'm going to hate this. And so the first option was off the table. It's like I'm not going to work a ridiculous number of hours consistently for a long, long time. And I know that, some entrepreneurs would criticize that and say, well, you have to do that. You have to be willing to do that if you're starting a business, if you want to be successful. And I don't necessarily feel that way. I feel like it's important to have a healthy emotional composure. If you want to really be successful in business, you've got to be able to balance your life. You've got to be able to find success while maintaining a good balance in your life, because otherwise what happens is you spend all of your time on your business and your family life falls apart, or you spend all your time on your business and you lose all of your friends because you never talk to them. And then you start finding success in your business, but the rest of your life is falling apart, and then you hate life. And there's so many successful people that end up with those types of regrets of, yeah, I have $100 million in the bank, but my kids hate me or whatever, And so it was important to me that I didn't do that. And so anyway, so I started hiring employees, and I found it pretty challenging to say, I need to hire employees. I need to train employees. I'm managing my business. I probably need to have somebody else that does sales for me, because right now I'm doing all of the sales, and that's a full-time job. And I'm doing all the fulfillment for my clients, and that's a full-time job. And I'm doing project management. That's a full-time job. I'm training. That's a full-time job. And so trying to figure out like how to scale is a challenge. And so about this time, the owner of Disruptive Advertising and I sat down, and he had already gone through that phase. And so he had about 30 employees at the time, and I had like 2 or 3. And he basically said, you know what, like what your business offers would be super beneficial for my clients, and what I offer in my business would be super beneficial to your clients. If we teamed up and did this together as the same company, this could be really, I feel like we could really offer a great solution. That was the first thing that was important to me for deciding to merge my business. The second thing was they already had a lot of things in place. They had a sales team that was already selling without the owner having to be involved. And that was something I was really struggling to get going. And they had a lot of, like I said, they had a finance team that was in place to handle all the billing. That was stuff I was still doing on my own. And so I looked at Disruptive and said, wow, I could take several steps forward and basically skip the next year of figuring out how to get a finance team going and how to pay them without breaking my business. And so that was another thing, was I was able to accomplish my career goals a lot sooner by merging and kind of accelerating my growth. And then the final thing was, like, anytime you're going to merge companies, you've got to like the person that you're merging with. Like, it's a people decision just as much as it is a business decision. And if you merge or if you partner up with somebody that you hate, like, you're going to hate your life and you're going to hate your business. So I really loved, like, the owner of Disruptive and me got along really well. And so I felt a lot of confidence with doing it. And so, I talked to my wife, we talked about it a lot, and finally decided to do it. And I mean, it's been almost 3 years now, and I still am very grateful that I did that. I still get along very well with Jake, who was the owner of Disruptive. Him and I get along really well. We've been able to grow from 30 employees to 130 now. And, there's just been so many good things that have happened from the merger that I'm very grateful I did it.
Wow, we can't wait. You should tell Jack to come here also tell us his side of story. He might be saying, no, Chris is too hard work. Okay. If you have never tried A/B testing, where should they start?
A/B testing, or conversion rate optimization that I've gained such a love and a passion for, is really about, like I said, it's about being willing to challenge your website. So if you're running a business or if you are starting a business, you either have a website already or you're going to need to build one, because every business needs a website in today's world. And so And so A/B testing is about figuring out, well, what should that website look like? So one mistake that a lot of businesses make is a lot of businesses will just say, well, I'll just hire an awesome designer and they'll design me a website that looks awesome and then I'll be successful. And the truth of the matter is it's impossible to predict what kind of website your audience is going to want to see. Even if you copy your biggest competitor, I've seen a lot of companies that will copy their competitors and totally fail because their audience didn't actually want to see the same type of website as their competitors. You have a unique business. You have unique value propositions. You've got a unique brand, and so you need to figure out how to portray your brand in a unique way. And so what A/B testing does is it gives businesses a way to try a few different approaches at a website. Instead of just doing one single design up a few different versions of your website and then split traffic between them and allow your audience to tell you which one they like the best based on which one converts the best. And so the best place to start, if you want to start doing A/B testing, if you're like, oh yeah, Chris, you're right. I have a website and it sucks. Or I have a website, but you know what? Like I just went with whatever some designer told me. Like I've never tried anything different. There's a couple things that you'll want to do. First, you want to get an A/B testing tool that will allow you to run an A/B test. And so the easiest place to get started is Google Optimize. So Google has a free A/B testing tool that you can use. And it's not the greatest tool out there, but it is a great place to get started. And then I put together a starter guide for people that are saying, yeah, I want to start testing. I'm going to get Google Optimize. Then you need to figure out like what types of tests to run on your site. Like, should I test two completely different designs? Should I test a version of my site with a picture and one without a picture? Like, what should I test? So we created a starter guide for people to give a bunch of test ideas, like types of tests that you should run. And so people can go and download our A/B testing starter guide at disruptiveadvertising.com/guide. And that, like I said, that just has a whole bunch of great test ideas that people can try out.
What have you learned from business as a whole?
I think one thing I have learned is sort of what I've mentioned before, which is growth it's hard sometimes. A lot of times it's hard. And some of the most painful experiences in my career and in my life, even some of the most painful experiences, or some of the times when I have grown the most in my life were the most painful. And I now look back on those experiences with fondness. It's like, I'm grateful that I went through that client canceling because I was able to learn I didn't set good expectations. And I had to get slapped in the face a couple of times before I learned how to set good expectations. And so I think one of the things that I've learned and that I try to practice is having gratitude for some of the hard experiences. Being grateful for some of the failures and some of the things that sometimes it's easy to feel like you are failing. But again, like I said, if you're constantly learning from those experiences, then you're not failing, you're succeeding. And you will eventually succeed if you have enough of those experiences that you learn from. So that, I feel like that's one thing I've learned, is how to be grateful for really hard, painful experiences.
You mentioned earlier that you had a mentor. What is the most valuable thing your mentor has told you?
There have been a lot of valuable things. I think one thing that one of my mentors told me and really challenged me to do. So he gave me a quote that said, in order to accomplish a goal you've never reached, you have to do things you've never done before. And he told me that as a way of challenging me to push myself out of my comfort zone and saying, okay, yeah, you've never done this thing before and it's going to be really hard and it's going to be really uncomfortable. Now go do it. You've got to do that in order to be successful. In order to reach your goals, you've got to think differently, and you've got to behave differently and act differently and constantly be willing to change. And that was really, really valuable for me to hear. And it helped me to be open to feedback from people, because sometimes it's easy to feel resistant to others asking you to change. I had a conversation with an employee just yesterday that was really uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable because she was bringing up a lot of areas that I was falling short. She was inviting me to change, and sometimes it's easy to get prideful and go, I don't need to change. You need to change. Um, and so some of those experiences can be really uncomfortable. And I was grateful to have had that experience, to have that feedback, to say, you know what, maybe I do need to do things differently. Maybe I'm not the perfect manager or people developer or whatever yet, and that's okay. And I'm willing to change. I'm willing to hear other people's feedback, because I know I've got to do things I've never done before in order to, get to a new destination. So, that was great feedback for me.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
So when I first started my business, I mentioned I have a very supportive wife, and she's still very supportive of me. And I remember, when I first started, I had one client. And again, I had never run a business before, so I didn't really know what are all the things I need to do in order to be successful. It was just like, okay, I've got one client. I'm just going to do an awesome job for them. But I remember a few weeks into starting my business, something went wrong with this client, and they were pretty upset, and I was worried that they were going to cancel. And so I remember talking to my wife and saying, oh, I feel like this client's going to cancel. And she said, okay, so what are you going to do if they cancel? Do you have other clients that you're working on selling? And I feel embarrassed now to look back and go oh, I haven't actually been doing sales. I've just been focusing all of my time on this one client. I haven't been building a sales pipeline and, working on building my business. And so I think one thing that has contributed to my success is a spouse that is willing to challenge me and ask me sometimes painfully obvious questions to help me to open my eyes. So like I said, whether it's a spouse or a business partner or a coworker or whatever, having somebody that is willing to talk to you like that or ask you some of those uncomfortable questions is extremely valuable, especially early on in your business.
You should be grateful. You are like a guy. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your conversion rate optimization data guide. Tell us more about it.
Yeah. So I've developed a process over the last, I've been in conversion rate optimization now for about 7 years. And one of the challenges I mentioned earlier, one of the challenges that I had when I was starting to do A/B testing was I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to test. It was like I found some tools that I could test with, but there was nobody that could tell me here's what to do, here's what process to follow. And so even though I saw some early successes with A/B testing, I didn't know where to go from there. It was like, okay, awesome. Hey, we increased conversion rates. Now what do we do? And so what we've done with this A/B testing starter guide is we've basically put together all of the things that I wish I had known when I first started A/B testing, like how to create a strategy and how to create a test and what tools to use and, all of those types of things. What are the first few tests that I should try out? We've put all of those things in the guide, and it's a resource that I use, for some of my employees to help start, training them, as well as, it's where I point a lot of friends and family who ask me how they can get started in this. So, like I mentioned earlier, the URL to download the guide is at disruptiveadvertising.com/guide. And it's just a great resource for, figuring out how to start developing this new skill set.
And how can we get in connect with you?
So I am on LinkedIn and Twitter. My name is Chris Dayley. My last name is spelled Dayley. So people could hit me up on social media or like I said, you could go to the website, disruptiveadvertising.com, and if you're interested in learning more about what we do or what I do, I'd be happy to chat with anybody who wants to reach out.
Okay, thank you. So, clan, there will be more from Chris in a moment. If you are listening on one of the many podcasting platforms rather than my website and you are encouraged by Chris's journey, go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for a portion bonus of the interview. The Online Success Journey is a wonderful membership community built for people searching for the path to success. We are one big clan and you can be part of this community for free. Once you have joined the clan, click on part 2 of Chris's journey or over 100 other journeys that are available and learn how you can find the right path for your own online success journey. That's a wrap, clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Chris.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path, so make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.